What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. 2 days in a row here on FanFi Addicts YouTube channel. That's happened in a while, but today I'm super excited to have author ML Spencer, author of the amazing Dragon Mage, with me today. ML, how are you doing this morning?
Hi, I'm doing really good
now.
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, I'm losing track of time. It's Friday. That's all that matters. So have you had a pretty good day so far? I mean, I know it's like mid-afternoon here and just about to end the workday. So
yeah, I'm in California, so it's only noon here. And of course, it's summer break, so I only woke up a couple hours ago, which is wonderful. And I'm still, in fact, having my morning coffee.
Nothing at all wrong with that. Yeah, so I'm doing like this fasting thing for the summer, so I can actually drink coffee till like 10. And so I was drinking my morning coffee and I was talking to Christian Cameron yesterday. That like wait, because I wake up at like 6, and that 4-hour wait before caffeine, it's rough.
Oh gosh, that's terrible. So I'm doing a fasting thing too over the summer, and the only thing I'm allowed to eat until pretty much mid-afternoon is coffee. Yeah, so that's kind of like what I'm doing. I've already lost like 12 pounds. I'm really excited.
That's awesome.
All that COVID weight coming off. A little bit of pre-COVID weight.
Yeah, so see, do you drink black coffee? Just straight?
No, I have one cream. A little bit of cream.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So like I've got to have, so they say to use like non-sweetened like almond creamer and all that stuff, and like, you know, I like almond milk. Almond creamer is fine, but like the non-sweetened does nothing for me, and I can't drink straight coffee. And so I'm like, all right, I gotta hit my 9:30 window, and then just all the sugar.
There you go. There you
go. Well, I kind of wanted to start off like I normally start off. I just want to ask you, tell me about yourself. Tell me about growing up. Did you read a lot growing up, and kind of how you got into writing?
Okay, so when I was growing up, I was an only child, and I was pretty bullied and ostracized. So it was just like me alone all the time. And so I kind of had to entertain myself. And I grew up basically reading hugely for entertainment. I was a huge reader. Like even in the 3rd grade, I was reading like James A. Missioner and like huge like novels. I got into fantasy actually from reading the Thomas Covenant, Chronicles of Thomas Covenant series by Stephen R. Donaldson. My grandma had gone to the store and bought my cousin and I box sets. And my cousin got the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, and I got Nancy Drew. And I was like ridiculously like unhappy about that. So he swapped me, which is really nice. My doorbell just rang. I'm not getting it. It's somebody important, but just
You're good.
It's okay. Okay. Anyway, so that's what started me off. Was Thomas Covenant. Kind of from there, then I probably went to like Lord of the Rings and all like the really classic stuff. I was really into Anne McCaffrey, obviously, when I was little. I just like lived in her world. I mean, even like her like little like songs like that she like wrote and put in there, I like put them to music. And I mean, I was like really kind of nerdy. My grandma owned an orange grove. And so I made the entire orange grove into like a fantasy land. And I would map out the orange grove and make like little cities like here and there and there. And they were having war with each other, and they had gods, and I had like a whole world wiki. So I was like a total nerd even back then. Yeah, so and I was constantly writing. My mom didn't really like me to write for some reason. I don't know why. So I would literally hide up in the attic at my little desk that I made for myself. And I had like this whole like string thing attached to like empty aluminum cans, so that when she was walking up the stairs, the string would trip and I would, the cans would go, and then I would put all my writing away really fast.
That's ingenious.
Really sad. So yeah, I guess I was like making little books that I would put together and bind. I would even sew them.
Wow.
And up until college, when I wrote like my first actual manuscript, which really sucked, and it will never see the light of day. But yeah, that's kind of like when I started really writing. At that point, oh God, who was it? Come on, Miss of Avalon. Who was that? Oh. I forgot her name. She had a big magazine going on at the time, and I kept on trying to submit to it. I wanted in that magazine so bad. So every month I would send her like a new short story, and she'd always send it back to me. Nope, not good enough. Nope, not good enough. And honestly, I think that's more than anything that really kind of like polished up my writing, was trying to get in that magazine. And another thing is I also took like a whole bunch of creative writing classes in college, and that really helped too, I think. And I never really gave up. That's, I think, the big thing. Okay, let me amend that. I did give up for a little bit of time because I got really down. After I wrote my first real novel, Dark Mage, I tried submitting it everywhere, and it was rejected everywhere. And after that, self-publishing wasn't really a thing back then. And so I just said, okay, this is not going to happen for me. And I just said, forget it, until about 2012, when I kind of got it out and polished it up. And that's when I self-published it. And that's kind of like when I became a self-published author, I guess, is what you can say. Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah. God, I just think it's so funny how you created this like little trap for when you come upstairs. It's funny because I'm kind of going back through Fallout 4, and all I can think of is like all the raider traps that are set up with cans and string. And so I'm just imagining just your mom like finding a tripwire and going, wait, my daughter's been writing this entire time.
I don't think she ever connected the string with a tripwire. It was just like, wow, my daughter puts random strings on the stairs.
Oh my goodness. So tell me a little bit about your writing process. So how has it maybe changed since, not even from like when you were younger writing, but like when you really started taking it seriously, you started sending, your short stories out, how's your process changed? Do you plot out everything? Do you write outlines, or do you really just pants it?
I think I was more of an outliner to begin with. I think I'm actually starting to become more of a pantser. Pretty much I make a huge like straight outline. Boom. I map everything out, but it's more like a skeleton, like something has to happen here, Okay, so on chapter whatever, we have to have the inciting incident. Okay, this percent of the way through, this needs to happen. Okay, we're 50%. We need that, that 50% huge climax going on, and then and I plot it out that way, and then I start just kind of throwing things in, and so basically I kind of like have a roadmap, and then I have to, just like if you're planning like a family trip. Okay, we want to go to New York. What are some sites that we want to see along the way? Should we take like a little diversion here and go see this? So. That's kind of like what I do, and I just kind of like start filling it in. And sometimes I'll have gaps, like maybe 10 chapters or so, where the whole 10 chapters is just like something big happens here, but I won't really know quite what that is until I kind of like almost get to it. And I think I rely a lot on inspiration too, sometimes like when I'm driving long distances, I'll just sit there and like listen to like, I don't know, video game type music basically. And I'll have just like flashes come into my brain of ideas, and I'll just be like writing them down, or, using the voice recorder on my phone. And then those kind of go into the outline too. And even like, I can be like 50% or even 80% of the way through it. I'll have this great idea, and I'll alter the outline basically to accommodate it. So I'm a little bit of both, I guess.
I gotcha. Yeah, I kind of like that idea of a timeline. And you have a beginning and an end, and you just fill in everything in the middle. And yeah, I feel like that 50% climax it's almost in every book. It's not in every book, but it's almost in every book. And it's that thing that kind of gets you over the hump. If you're as a reader, if you're kind of iffy, you don't know quite if it's going to go in the direction you want it to go, and then it's like boom, action, or boom, really intense situation, and it's like, okay, I think I'll keep going. or you just have the really good opening chapter that just hooks you and keeps you going throughout. Which is what Dragon Mage did for me. I think I even messaged you, and I was like, okay, I've completely fallen in love with Aram. I'm done. We're just gonna coast through the rest of this book. So.
That's awesome.
So you mentioned some of the authors you read growing up, and you mentioned Anne McCaffrey being a big one. But would you say she's your major influence with writing, or do you have other influences that you're like, okay, this is really who started it? Started my writing bug.
Okay, that's a big one. No, I don't think Anne McCaffrey actually even started the writing bug. I think that it started my love for dragons, definitely. But as far as me wanting to write and do it myself, I'm going to have to probably attribute that to Robert Jordan. As far as like the seriousness and exactly what direction I wanted my writing to take. The tiny little things that I was writing throughout my childhood, I never really meant to become a writer. It was just stuff I was doing for my own enjoyment. One of the big books that really influenced me when I was little wasn't even fantasy. It was Where the Red Fern Grows. And I got so stuck on that book for a lot of reasons. And I think that kind of actually propelled me toward more of a kind of almost like a dark kind of fantasy kind of thing, because, it's not a happy book.
No, it's not.
It's not a happy book, but it's a very compelling book. And that's kind of like the way I write my stories now, is kind of like along that mode.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha. So I want to talk a little bit about your earlier books, and then we'll get into Dragon Mage. So can you tell us a little bit about the Rivenworld saga? Kind of give us, I guess, a brief overview of what it's about. Any major characters, because that series is complete now.
Yeah.
Correct. So give us a little bit about that.
Okay. So basically it's about a mage who ends up being like the last of his kind, and it falls upon him to save his people from this horrible invasion. And in the process, he has to basically make himself completely evil and do all kinds of terrible things that I think would really kind of like be a test of the reader's morals. Do they agree with his choices? With, being as pressed as he is, would they make the same decisions to go as far as, he does? And then we kind of like turn that around a little bit, and we see the entire situation from the other point of view, from the enemy's point of view. And we realize that maybe some of the things that he did, maybe they weren't quite justified. And so we kind of like go on his journey and his process, and kind of like reconciling, what he did and the damage he caused and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about the Chaos Cycle? I know there's 2 books out so far in that series.
Yeah, that one's not complete. I have yet to write book 3. Chaos Cycle is kind of like a continuation of the Rivenworld saga. It happens about 20 years later. I wrote book 1, book 2, and then I got the Dragon Mage bug that just completely bit me. And I'm like, oh God, I've got to write this while I'm just, first of all, it was all I could think about. I get consumed by things to the point of obsession. And when that happens, there's nothing else I want to do. It's literally impossible. So when that happened, it was impossible for me to write the last book on the Chaos Cycle, and I just veered into Dragon Mage. I'll go back to it. I will, I promise. But right now I'm consumed by Dragon Mage, then with the Rivenworld series. So that's all I can really do right now.
I gotcha. So it's a continuation. So does it involve the same characters? Does it take on new characters that maybe we saw in the first series?
It has some of the characters from the original series, and it kind of continues on too with like a little bit of the next generation.
Okay. Awesome. So before we get into Dragon Mage again, Sarah Chorn, I talked to her a couple of days ago, and she wanted me to ask you a couple of questions. First being marketing, and how are you such a wizard at marketing, being a self-published author?
Well, I don't know if I'm actually a marketing wizard. I think when I first got into self-publishing, I sucked at marketing like bad. Like when I originally released Dark Mage, I didn't even have social media. I did not have a Facebook page, nothing, no Twitter, nothing. Then when I actually decided to like, hey, maybe I need to start promoting this stuff. And I actually got on social media. I don't do anything small. I really don't. If I do it, it's freaking huge.
Clearly.
There you go. So when I got onto social media, I did it freaking huge. And, I built my Twitter up. I think I've got like 18,000 followers. I really hit Facebook hard. I met everybody and I talked to everybody and I tried to just like pick up tidbits from everybody and everything. And Facebook's kind of hard because when you first get onto it, you go into like a lot of groups that don't really help you very much. They're just like a whole bunch of people who really don't know what they're doing. I mean, it's not helpful to a new author. And you have to kind of like find the right groups where you've got people who are actually selling books and you can actually talk to them and find out like kind of like what they're doing. I think when I first started, it was amazing to me, the people out there offering advice. This is how you market. This is how you sell. And then you go onto their Amazon page and you look and you see like they got like 5 reviews for all their books. It's like, how can you be telling me how to market? I don't get it. So I kind of really had to like hunt and seek, where should I be? What crowd should I run with? Who can I talk to? And then I just started talking to people and I would pick up like a tidbit here and there and there and there. And I would try different things and just, test strategies. And, it did not come easily. It took me a couple of years to really be able to say, okay, I can't say I got this right now. I really can't. I don't got this. Every time I think I got this, something changes. Mm. And I'm back on my butt again, trying to say, okay, what do I do now? But I am definitely better. When things change, I don't have to go all the way back to square one. Maybe I'll go back to like 80% and have to crawl back from there. Mm-hmm. And, let's face it, I still can't launch a book like some of the big guys, I can't launch a book like Will White. I can't do it. But, I can launch a book a lot better than I used to, at least if it's a good book. So, yeah.
I gotcha. I mean, Will is also on book 9. So, I mean, he's just continued his series. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know many people that can launch a book like Will. I mean, being on the, New York Times bestseller list and everything as a self-pub, that's achieving pretty high.
Yeah, no, he's my idol right there. Yes.
Yeah, but I agree, man. There's a lot of, I talk to a lot of self-published authors, and they always talk about how much they hate self-promotion. Most of the time, they don't really like social media. I mean, some of them do now. They talk to other authors and I guess get ideas from there. But you just got such a mix of traditional and self that it's just kind of all over the place. Yeah. But you mentioned about how you're getting advice from authors that have like 5 reviews on their books on Amazon and stuff, and it kind of makes me remember that when I first started getting into really reading, and I was looking for books on craft, like Stephen King's and Jeff Vandermeer and stuff like that. I would find all these authors that have written books on writing, but they like had barely sold any books. At least from what you can tell, they haven't sold that many books, and I'm like, how much, gumption do you have to be like, I know how to write a very great book, and you should, read this to find out how, even though I haven't sold any. But
there's a lot of that out there. Really,
it's kind of nuts how much is out there.
Yeah, it really is. It's sad. I guess if they can't sell fiction, they just start trying to write nonfiction, and that's all they know. That's all I can think of.
Yeah.
But that's something that, new authors do need to kind of like pay attention to, is pay attention to your sources. Mm-hmm. And kind of like look and make sure that the advice you're getting is worth what you're paying for it.
Right. Yeah. Stick to the mainstream writers and then find out who follows those. And then you kind of just go down the levels and just until you get to the point. Yeah. And she also wanted me to ask you about botany.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't actually do botany very well. It's true. I majored in botany in school. I did. Well, all right. My education is awfully strange. I went into the UC system as a chemistry major. I got a C in my first chemistry class, and my professor hauled me in and told me, "You're not cut out for sciences. Go away." So I hung my head in failure and went and I got a psychology degree. with almost a creative writing minor. I didn't take that last class, but so I did that. But then I really didn't want to go to grad school with the psychology degree. At that point, I kind of changed my mind about what I wanted to do. But I couldn't get a job with just like a psychology bachelor's degree. I mean, I was working in like temp jobs for minimum wage. It was so bad.
Right.
So I decided, okay, I think what I'll do is I'll become a teacher. What do I want to teach? Okay, I'll teach biology. There we go. I'm going to go, just get a teaching credential for biology. And I ended up at Cal State taking biology classes with a concentration in botany. And that's kind of like what I did. So yeah, 9 years later, so I got this botany degree and I started teaching biology. But as far as botany is concerned, despite all the work I did in greenhouses in college, I cannot grow a plant. Everything I plant inevitably dies of neglect. I mean, my children are very lucky to still be alive. But for some reason, I just, I don't water them. I don't care for them. This is sad. Okay. My great grandma left us and it's gone down through the generations, like this succulent, and it's the family succulent. It's like over 150 years it's been in my family.
Good grief.
I'm charged with keeping it alive. And it was the saddest, most pathetic succulent at the beginning of the summer. It was almost dead. It was wilted. It was and I finally got like the family like guilt. And so I finally repotted it and it's looking a little happier now, but botany, no.
My wife would say the same thing, that the plants that she actually attempts to keep alive end up dying, and the ones that she just completely neglects are thriving. We have a succulent out front. Literally, it just sits in the same pot. It gets sunshine, I don't know, 10, 12 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And it only gets watered when it rains, and it has to rain pretty hard for the wind to carry it in. And that sucker, it's massive. And yet anything we keep in the house and gets watered, it gets love and everything, it just dies. Yeah. That's so I'm like, okay, plant stuff, ignore it, got it.
Exactly. There you go.
All right, well, let's talk about Dragon Mage. So clearly it's in SPFBO this year, since SPFBO 7, crossing fingers. But I've been hearing about this book for forever, and I decided to jump up on the Storytellers on Tour book tour for it, which I believe started a couple of days ago.
Yes.
And my stop's on Monday, the 21st. And I have to say, this book is phenomenal. We've got three people on it, so it's me and Manny and Justin, and then Jason actually reviewed it, I think, back in February, and gave it a really good rating. It's depending on where you find it, it's 800 to 900 pages, depending on what format you're in. Or I think it's like 27 hours in audio, which comes out in July. And by the way, if you have the ebook, it's only $7.49 for the audiobook with Whisper Sync on Audible. Just FYI. Ben Farrow is a phenomenal narrator. So if you like audiobooks, go check it out. I think it comes out on July 20th. So You got about a month.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So yes, I want you to tell the audience a little bit about it, and then we'll kind of deep dive into a couple of questions about the story.
Okay, so basically, it's something that's been on my mind for years. For years, I had an idea of the split world, because Dragon Mage takes place in a world that has been sundered. You got the world above that's been separated from the world below, and geographically, they're pretty much very similar. But they're just two completely different worlds. The world below is the world of magic, and the world above is kind of like the world of man. And so for that idea, that's an idea that I've had, like I said, for years, and I've been world building that for years, literally. What I never had was a story to put into that world. And that's what happened when I stopped writing the Chaos Cycle. The story bit me. I'm like, holy crap, that's my story for my world. I gotta go write it. As far as the magic system for Dragon Mage consists of basically knots. Well, there's a couple different types of magic, but the main one is kind of like about these ethereal strands, and my main character loves knots, and he's very good at knotting, which really works well because that's how magic is used. It's used making various forms of knots of aether, making them, breaking them, and doing a whole bunch of things with them. And I wanted a character who could be really, really, really good at something. And I started thinking just about me and my family. And I have Asperger's, if you probably can't tell. I'm a little socially awkward, and that's kind of a hallmark of it. My son has Asperger's too. And one of the things about me, especially, is I love being on the autism spectrum, which is kind of just, I've always seen it as one of my main strengths. Okay, I didn't always see it. I came to see it. When I was younger, I didn't know I was on the autism spectrum when I was younger. And there was a lot about myself I didn't understand. It wasn't until later that I came to understand, oh, wow, there's pieces of me that, make my life, more challenging. But it also is my wonderful strength that allows things to absolutely consume me to the point where I can think of absolutely nothing else. And I get really good at those things. And that's what I wanted my main character to be like, someone, like me, who's just consumed with like knots. And is so good with knots, and that's what makes him incredibly, fit to become, the most powerful magic user in his world. So that was the idea that just really struck me, and that's what I had to start writing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, even like I said earlier, from the first chapter, like Aram is just like perfect. Like I kind of compare him a little bit to I don't know if you've ever read The Winded Kingdom by R.J. Barker, but Garten, just kind of not really his mannerisms, but just a character you can just really just grab onto and just no matter what, get behind him. I know Aram does kind of make some decisions that you kind of scratch your head, and a lot of the characters around him really scratch their heads behind him as well. But it's all to kind of further his progression throughout the story, as well as to answer a lot of questions that he just is constantly asking and wondering about himself, about his past, about his family, etc. But it's just so great. So I know you mentioned Asperger's, and I know you did a article for one of my contributors, Justin, his Neurodivergence in Fiction series, which you called "How ASD," which is Autism Spectrum Disorder, became your superpower. So kind of what you were saying, you really channeled that into Aram. Was that something kind of from the very beginning? You were like, this is my character, or did Aram just kind of come out of nowhere, or was he always at the forefront of the story?
I really wanted the main character to be on the autism spectrum even before I set pen to paper. I didn't know how he was going to kind of turn out until at the end of, I think, like chapter 1. There's some things that happened to Aram in chapter 1, and I just kept on asking, like, how would he feel about this? How would he react? What's he like? And I didn't have to look any further than inside myself. And I think that that's kind of what makes Aram kind of, a genuine character, is because, he's basically me, which is really weird. Every single novel, every single fictional character I've ever written, it's like acting. You have to kind of like put yourself into a role, and you have to be a different person. With Aram, it was actually weird to me because I didn't put myself into him. I put me into him. Mm-hmm. And so that's what really worked for, I think, Aram, is that then that's what makes him genuine. It's just, it's me. Everything about him is me, literally. So
Yeah, it's so interesting. You don't see a lot of characters, on the spectrum in fiction. I mean, I feel like you're starting to see a few more kind of crop up over maybe the past couple of years, and I know there will be more out there. And like I said, Justin's really trying to highlight authors that are either on the spectrum or write characters that are on the spectrum. And it's definitely a very different look than a lot of people are used to in fantasy and science fiction. But I kind of want to ask past that, this whole split world. We're used to most fantasy taking place on a continent or two. There's an ocean in between, or some rivers that flow through, and you got to cross bridges to get to. How does travel work in between your two worlds? And what was it that struck you as like, I have to have this upper and lower world that made you so like excited about writing it?
Okay, the whole idea of the split world came one day when I was making a map. I mean, it was really simple. It was just like a line map. I'm drawing a continent with a line, and I'm getting ready to draw in the ocean. I'm like, should I put it on this side of the line or that side of the line? And I started thinking, wouldn't it be cool if you had a world where, the water was, the land on one part of the world, and there you had like this mirror world where the other continents, the land. So I started playing with that idea. Okay, well, we can do this and have two worlds, one with the map inverted basically. And I started thinking about, no, let's go ahead and just make it actually both the same world, but just completely like different versions of it. Then I got the idea for separating the magical world from the non-magical world, the more realistic world. And that's kind of how the whole idea came to me.
Okay. So how does travel work in between the two? So if if you're human, you have no magic abilities, are you able to cross into the other world, or is it like a barrier type thing? Is there a seance you have to perform?
So, that's one thing I've always kind of had a hard time describing is the void between worlds and how you get from one world to the other world. You cross through the void. Where's the void? And I've always had this idea in my head that I've had a hard time putting it on the page. I finally was able to do it in the sequel to Dragon Mage. It's got a nice big description about how this works. But basically, I kind of see it almost as two bubbles. The world above is like a bubble, and the world below is like a bubble. If you can imagine those two bubbles getting stuck together. So could you go from one bubble into the other bubble? Yeah. And where's the void? It's everything outside those two bubbles. Mm-hmm. So you can veer into the void. You can. Another description I kind of have too is if you can imagine like a sandwich with maybe some peanut butter between the slices, and the peanut butter is the void between worlds. And so if you can smash those two sandwiches together and kind of like squeeze the peanut butter, you can get from one to the other. So I think that's like kind of the best description I can probably think of for, my world and the void and stuff. So who can go from one world to the other? Anyone who could rip through that bubble, basically. And the bubble is made of strands of ether. And so not everybody can do it. And, not good things happen when that happens, because then you let the void things can leak kind of through that hole and get into your bubbles.
Right. There's some really nasty things that are living within that space. Okay, now that we're hungry because we're talking about peanut butter sandwiches. So you mentioned book 2. I know originally this was going to be a standalone, but I think you had some people or many peoples asking for more. So what finally made you decide to write a sequel?
It was a spur of the moment decision. It was really weird. All these people were asking me to write a sequel, and so I'm like, oh gosh, should I do it? Should I do it? Okay, maybe, but I sure wasn't committed because I had no idea at all what I could write in that sequel. And then it was like, gosh, it was like days before publication. And one of my friends kind of like got a hold of me and said, you really need to put the sequel up on Amazon so people can pre-order it. I'm like, really? Now I actually have to come up with a sequel. I have to come up with a series name and everything days before this thing goes live. And I have no idea what I'm going to write. How do you even name a book when you don't know what you're going to write? So that's the first Champion of the Fallen. Yeah, that sounds like a great name.
It does.
I had no idea who was the champion and who was the fallen. I had no idea, like a series name. So I put this thing up, and I had some crappy series name attached to it originally on Amazon. It was really funny because somebody on Reddit picked it up first. I had that series name on Amazon for probably 2 hours, and somebody picked it up and was like, "What is this? What is this series?" I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, "Oh God, that name sucks." So then I went back and I'm like, trying all different things. I finally came up with Rivenworld. I did, and I slapped it on there. And so, like 2 hours later, Amazon changed the series name. But somebody actually on Reddit did catch it. They did.
I have to know now. What was the original series name? You got to tell us.
I can't even remember. It was something of the Sundered, like whatever. I mean, I don't know. It was so bad. It was
the void around the Sundered.
Yeah. It was something like that. It was like, well, I wanted to say something about like the Sundered world idea, but that's already taken. There is a Sundered world, and there's a Sundered this, and a Sundered that, and there's a split that. It's just like everything in the world is taken. So, yeah, I'm actually surprised I came up with Rivenworld. It hit me. So I'm glad because I like that name.
If I say it's better.
It's a lot better.
So we've got this massive tome here. So this beautiful hardcover, and I guess I could take the slipcover off too, because we got to show off the naked hardcovers. We got to show how pretty it looks on the inside too. Gosh, I'm sorry, but these are just so much better. I mean, I love slipcases and dust jackets, but like just a naked hardcover you could just slap up on the shelf and not worry about wear and tear on a dust jacket. It's just so pretty. So this massive chunk of a novel, again, is amazing. We've already, like I said, I think Jason gave it a 9 or a 9.5, and now Manny's given it a 10 out of 10, and I haven't decided my rating yet, but it's probably going to be a 10. So, you've had major success with this book. I've seen, since it was published in January, I've seen everybody talk about it. You see it, people buying it, putting it on their shelves. I mean, clearly you got a little poster up behind you. Tell me, what's next? I mean, clearly, you've started reading, you're started writing the second one. Sarah, give me a little hint about how great it is. But I want to know what's next in the Rivenworld series.
That's a great question. So I've got book 2 plotted out. That took me a while, honestly. I've had a horrible time writing that book because I didn't plan on having it. It was not meant to be. And so I literally just floundered for about 3 months trying to figure out how I can write this. And there was plenty of material. There's a lot of ends, actually. Even though I planned on having Dragon Mage be a standalone, there were some loose ends that definitely could be tied up. We obviously we conquered the major problem in the book. It was very well conquered. But there are other problems out there, other enemies, bigger enemies, a few of them, that also cause a problem with this world. And the world itself is problematic. The world above has lots of problems. The world below is still very fragile. And there's this place in between where a lot of bad things are happening. And so all these people need a champion. And that's kind of what my character is. He's a champion. And so he's got some big jobs to do. He really does, in a lot of different places.
Okay. So Is your plan to stop at 2? Do you now foresee yourself writing a third, or do you think it's just going to be is it going to stick to a duology?
No, it's going to be at least 3.
Oh wow.
I'm kind of hoping it doesn't go to 4.
I guess it
But
depends on how many people say you need to write a 4th one.
well, like I said, there's a lot of bigger things out there. We only conquered one of them so far. And gosh, I mean, if I really wanted to, I can probably really span this out like huge. I don't think I want to do that though. These books are exhausting to write. I'm thinking as soon as I finish up this series, okay, I'll finish up that 3rd book of, Chaos Cycle, and, maybe I'll just freaking retire, because by then my soul will be gone.
That's like I was talking to Christian yesterday and asked him, how long is, this Artifact Space series, how long is it going to go? And he goes, well, right now it's 3 books, but I could probably write 25. And I go, oh my gosh. I was like, eventually you got to tire. But I mean, I've seen people that have, series that are 18, 19, 20 books long. I mean, you look at Wheel of Time, and I'm just like, and Modesit's, I think his first series was like 21 books. I'm like,
yeah.
I think eventually it just gets exhausting. You get tired of the same characters, or you just, you spend 10 years trying to figure out where they're going to go next. But that's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about this series. But
yeah, I'm thinking probably 3 or 4 books. If it goes longer than 4 books, then like I said, I'll be soulless. I really will, because
they ghostwrite.
Yeah, they consume me. They consume my life. They take me away from other things in life that I enjoy. So yeah. I was going to say 3 or 4.
Okay.
Just
awesome. Well, last question I got for you. Have you read anything recently that you'd recommend?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I've really read a lot of things recently. I think first and foremost, I'm going to have to recommend A Testament of Steel by Davis Ashura. I've been reading things from Alec Hudson. That's really great. Shadows of Dust. Gosh, I've read so many great stuff lately. Andy Peliquin has there's a couple series out that are just really good. I like, his Hunter series is fantastic. It's like Darkblade Assassin and those things. I've been listening to David Estes on Audible, and I've been really enjoying that. And also, if you like Dragon Mage, I highly, highly recommend Michael R. Miller's Ascendant series. I finished reading that just a couple months ago, his book 1, and that's really, really good. And I also can recommend Battle Mage by Peter Flannery, which is one of my favorite books of all time.
Okay. I was actually recommended Battle Mage the other day. We had my daughter's first birthday party, and one of my friends that listens to a lot of books, and it kind of surprised me that he was like, yeah, I actually read a book. I was like, wait, you didn't listen to it? And he goes, no, I read it. And I was like, well, what'd you read? He goes, Battle Mage. And I go, okay. And then he told me about it. I was like, all right, I'll have to get on it. So now that you've recommended it too, I definitely need to get to it.
Yeah, definitely. That book was a huge influence for me from Dragon Mage. So definitely.
Okay. And you mentioned David Estes. I'm pretty sure he's writing a book with Ben Galley. And I think they have a book coming out fairly soon.
That's, what, if they do, I don't know about it. I do know that he is, just finishing up another book in his series that he's kind of been going with for a while. And so I think that's coming too.
Okay. Awesome. Hey, I like this. Half the time I ask that question, everybody's like, books, I write them. Do I read them? So I'm glad to know you got some recommendations. Well, I really, really appreciate you coming and chatting with me today. And I'm really looking forward to sharing our tour stop with you and everybody else, and our wonderful glowing reviews for Dark Mage. And I'll be sharing this chat again. There's going to be a nice giveaway for everybody that wants to enter. And this will be up on Monday. But I definitely want to recommend checking out Justin's Neurodivergence and Fiction series. And you can check out ML's post in there called How ASD Became My Superpower. I'm going to have a link below the video for you to check that out. Also, make sure to check out our Storytellers on Tour stop on Monday, the 21st. So again, you can check out this chat once again. You can check out the giveaway for the book and our reviews. Buy Dragon Mage. Buy it. I don't care if you buy an ebook, hardcover. I would definitely recommend hardcover. And then you can, if you buy the ebook, you can get the audiobook for super cheap. Again, Ben Pharaoh is phenomenal. And then pre-order Champion of the Fallen, Rivenworld 2. It's got a phenomenal series title. So definitely make sure you do that. And ML, I wish you the best of luck in SPFBO. You're going to do great. Whether or not you think you are or not, you're going to do phenomenal because this book is amazing. And we'll have to do this again sometime.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Enjoy your weekend.